It generally stops the conversation when anybody asks me what do you do and I say I'm a sex therapist. Normally there's quite a lot of laughter. Generally towards the end of the evening somebody will take me to one side and tell me they've got a friend who has a problem. The conversation generally comes around to something like that. But actually most people are just curious. I think they want to understand what a sex therapist actually does. And I think to start with there's obviously a lot of titillation around it. And then when people understand that actually you're helping people with the most personal areas of their lives, you know, you're really helping them to actually deal with things that perhaps have been with them for years and years, things that they have felt so ashamed of, so much embarrassment about, and you're actually helping them to come to terms with this and to have better lives. At that point people tend to really respect it as a profession. A big part of the training as a sex therapist is looking at your own sexuality and your own attitudes to sex. And the reason for that is that if you don't do that, that can really get in the way when you're working with a client. And actually, if you're asking a client to sit there and be completely open with you about their sex life, you've got to have been through that experience yourself. You've got to know what that feels like. So I actually had to open up a lot about myself sexually in my training. And that was a really new experience for me. My upbringing was very much that you do not talk about sex. It's something that's taboo, it's something that's confined to marriage. Sex is just not something that people talk about in polite company. So I think if somebody had had a crystal ball and said to me then, you know, you're going to go on to be a sex therapist, I would have laughed. I would have thought it was absolutely impossible. But I think that actually doing the work that I did in my training has been so helpful for me, you know, both in terms of being able to do this work with clients, but also in terms of my own private life. Probably the biggest lesson I've had is that our history really shapes who we are sexually. For each person that comes in, their relationship with their parents, the way that they saw relationships happening when they were children, all of this shapes who they are in their adult relationships. And I think we tend to think when it comes to our relationships or our sexuality that it's something that we've defined ourselves as adults, and yet so much of this is about our history. And so for all of us, I think it's really important that we have the opportunity to explore that and to come to terms with that in order to understand who we are and why we have the reactions we do have with our partners.